right, ladies and gentlemen, everybody has a review sheet in front of them, or should. I'm going to do about 5 of these problems, and then you're going to have to do the other 5. Hopefully we can complete it by the end of the hour. After I've done 5 of them, I will put up your writing. You need to turn that in, these 5 problems, and then I've got more homework for tonight. Okay? All right, we're going to start with one of the easier ones, number 2. X plus 5 squared equals 0. Who knows? What's the first step we do with this? It's squared, so how many of them are there? 2. So let's write it so there's 2. X plus 5 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. Now what I do, it says plus 5. So what should I be doing? Minus 5. And I get x equals negative 5. You only have to write it once. I know there's 2 of them, but you only have to write it once. Any questions about that first one? Yes? It'd be fine. I'd still give you a book. All right, next we're going to look at number 3. We're going to look at number 3. Maybe. Okay, we're going to look at number 3, and we've got to split it up into 3 different parts. 2x plus 1 equals 0, 3x minus 2 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. And then we're going to solve to get x by itself. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides here, and I get 2x equals negative 1. Then what would I do? Divide by 2, good. And I get x equals negative 1/2. For the next one, what's my first step? 3x minus 2 equals 0. You're going to add 2. Good, opposites. You get 3x equals 2. What is my next step? Divide both sides by 3. You get x equals 2/3. You can change them into decimals if you want. I don't know why you would. It's just extra work. But if you want to, feel free. All right, the last one, what are we going to do? Add 1. Good. So x equals 1. Okay. So those first 4 should be relatively easy. Okay. It's the next 6 that are a little bit more difficult. The next 2 shouldn't be too bad. I'm going to do number 6. Come on. Just trying to make my life difficult. Okay. We've got m squared minus 12m plus 20. My first step, whenever it says the word factoring, is to do what? Make the 2 parentheses. Is there a number in front of the squared? No. Okay? So I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to think of factors of 20. You got 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't go in there, 4 and 5, 5 goes in there 4 times, 6 doesn't, 7 doesn't, 8 doesn't, 10 goes in there twice, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, and 19 don't go in there evenly, 20 goes in there once. Okay? The reason I list it like this going all the way through is to make sure I've got all my factors up there. Okay, now which ones, when I add them together, give me 12? 2 and 10. 10 and 2 or 2 and 10, doesn't matter which way you use it. So I'm going to have m, 2, and 10. Now I've got to figure out my signs. The 20 is positive. To get a positive answer, it either has to be a positive times a positive or negative times a negative. Which one is it going to be? But will a positive and a positive add together to give you negative 12? That's why it's going to be a negative and a negative. So now I'm going to FOIL it to check my answer. I strongly suggest you do this, but you do not have to. If you want to make sure you're getting them right, you should do it. M times m is m squared. M times negative 10 is negative 10m. Negative 2 times m is negative 2m. And negative 2 times negative 10 is a positive 20. These are like terms. They have the same letter, the same exponent. So I add them together and check. I've gotten the same the answer is my original problem. Any questions about this one? All right, let's look at number 8 then. We've got 3b squared minus 20b minus 7, and I do need to factor it. So what is my first step for factoring? Parentheses. Okay? Now, is there a number in front of my squared? Yes. So I need to list the factors of 3. I've got 1 and 3, and 3 and 1. Now I'm going to go over to the other side. What is my last term is negative 7, so you're going to list the factors of 7. 1 and 7, or 7 and 1. Now this is where I got a little tricky last night. I've got to figure out which one of these I multiply by 3, so when I add or subtract, I get 20. So I'm going to try the first one. I'm going to multiply 1 times 3, and I get 3. Is 3 and 7 ever going to give us 20? No, so that doesn't work. So now I'm going to try 7. I'm going to multiply it by 3. 7 times 3 gives me 21. 21 and 1, can that give me 20? If you subtract, right? Okay. So I know I've got 3b and b. I've got to multiply the 3 by the 7. So which parentheses does it go in? The first one or the second one? Second one. Second one. So I can put the 1 here. Now the hard part, where do I put my negatives? I know it can't be a negative and a negative or a positive and a positive because that 7 would be positive. So it's got to be a negative and a positive, but which one does the negative go to? It goes to the second one. Okay, and the first one is positive, right? Because we want 3 times 7 to give us a negative 21 and to get a positive 1. So when I add it together, I get a negative 20, that middle term. Does that make sense? Okay, now I'm going to FOIL it out to make sure I've got the right answer. 3b times b is 3b squared. 3b times negative 7 is negative 21b. 1 times b is a positive 1b. 1 times negative 7 is a negative 7. We're going to add these two in the middle. 3b squared minus 20b minus 7. Okay? Now we're going to try number 10, which is a little bit harder, but only because I've added one step to it. It's an easy step. Let's move down to number 10. We've got negative 2d squared minus 7d minus 5. Whenever you see a negative in front, simply take a negative out and change all the signs. So we're going to stick a negative 1 in the front, and then we're just going to make everything positive. 2d squared plus 7d plus 5. Now if I times them all by a negative, it goes back to my original problem. Is everybody okay with this so far? This is the extra thing that we're doing. Yeah? Okay, now what am I going to do? I'm going to make what? Parentheses. I'm going to put that negative in front still. I'm going to add my parentheses. Is there a number in front of my d squared? 2. So I've got to list the factors. 1 times 2 or 2 times 1. Then I go over to my last number. The factors of 5 are 1 and 5 or 5 and 1. So now I've got to figure out which one I'm going to multiply by 2. If I multiply 1 times 2, I get 2. Can 2 and 5 give me that positive 7? Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got 2d and d. I want to multiply the 2 times 1. So where do I put the 1? Second. Put the 5 here. Both of these are positive, so I know both are positive in the inside. Okay? Now I'm going to FOIL it, making sure I bring down that negative. And I get 2d times d is 2d squared. 2d times 1 is positive 2d. 5 times d is positive 5d. And 5 times 1 is a positive 5. Bring down that negative again, and I get 2d squared plus 7d plus 5. Now, it's still not my original problem yet until I times everything by a negative. Negative 2d squared minus 7d minus 5. So now check, it looks like my original problem. there any questions about this one? Because I did add that negative thing to it. Because it's so much easier to factor if not all three of the things are negative. If the number in front is a negative, it makes it much more difficult to factor. Because it's like, where do I put the negative? In front of the 2 or in front of the D? And it gets complicated. And this is just so much easier.